You ever sit alone on a holiday, staring at your phone, waiting for a call or a text that never comes? That sinking feeling in your chest when you realize the people you've loved your whole life didn't even want you at the table. That's exactly how my Thanksgiving started. Only this time, it wasn't by accident. My family made damn sure I was invited. It all began with a group chat, the same one we'd used for years to plan family gatherings. Normally, it was buzzing weeks before Thanksgiving. People posting recipes, assigning who brings what, throwing in inside jokes. This year, though, silence. At first, I thought maybe everyone was busy. But then my younger cousin, Jason, slipped up. He texted me privately, asking, "Hey, you coming to dinner? Heard they booked that new place downtown." I froze. Booked a place? Since when did my family eat Thanksgiving dinner at a restaurant? We always hosted at my mom's house, or my aunt said she felt like showing off. So why didn't I know? I asked him for details, but he quickly backtracked. "Oh, wait, maybe I got it wrong." Forget I said anything. Then, just like that, he ghosted me. That's when I checked the family chat again. Scrolling back. No invites. No address. Nothing. I texted my sister directly. "Hey, where's dinner this year?" Her reply came 3 hours later. "Oh, it's just a small thing this year. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it." That line burned into my head. My own flesh and blood telling me not to worry about the holiday we'd spent together every single year of my life. I tried calling my mom, but she let it ring out. Tried my aunt. She texted back a thumbs-up emoji, like I was some casual acquaintance, not her damn nephew. It didn't take long before the truth slipped out. They had, in fact, booked a restaurant, a fancy one downtown. And everyone, literally everyone, was invited except me. I'd love to tell you I didn't cry that night, but I did. I sat in the dark, scrolling through old Thanksgiving photos on my phone. Me carving the turkey, me making everyone laugh with stupid jokes, me washing dishes while the others lounged around. And now, I was erased, cut out like I never mattered. The thing is, I wasn't perfect. I knew that. I'd had my fair share of mistakes, arguments, falling outs, moments where my temper got the best of me. But I had always been there, no matter what. So why was I the one thrown away? That's when the grief started hardening into something else, something sharper. A voice in my head whispered, "If they don't want you at the table, then take the whole damn table away." The idea came to me like lightning. At first, I thought it was ridiculous. By the restaurant? Who even does that? But the longer I sat there, the more it started to make sense. I had the money, years of working, saving, investments that finally paid off. I'd never flaunted it because, well, my family loved to guilt trip anyone who got too successful. But now I realize that money could buy me more than comfort. It could buy me power. The next morning, I called the restaurant. I asked about reservations for Thanksgiving. They told me they were fully booked. Every table reserved for private parties. One of those parties was my family. I smiled to myself, even though my hands were shaking. Then I asked a different question. "Is the place for sale?" The manager laughed at first, thought I was joking. But when I gave him my name and dropped a hint about how serious I was, he cleared his throat and said he'd have the owner call me. And just like that, the first piece slid into place. But before I could pull the trigger, I needed to feel the sting a little deeper. Maybe I was being impulsive. Maybe I was letting anger cloud my judgment. So I drove by my mom's house that night, just to see if maybe they were having a smaller dinner without me. The driveway was empty, the curtains drawn, cold and dark, like I'd been cut off completely. It was final. My family had chosen to erase me, so I would erase their Thanksgiving. The following week, while they buzzed around making their secret plans, I sat across from the restaurant owner in a leather chair, contract on the table. He was an older guy, tired, worn down, clearly ready to pass the business on. We shook hands, and with one signature, the restaurant, and every single reservation inside it, belonged to me. The owner congratulated me, said I'd made a smart move. But all I could think was, this isn't about business. This is about blood. As the days inched closer to Thanksgiving, I stayed silent. I didn't confront anyone. Didn't hint at what I was planning. Let them laugh. Let them gossip. Let them think I was sitting at home sulking while they enjoyed their big feast without me. They had no idea the table they booked, the place they were so proud of, no longer belonged to them. And I couldn't wait to see their faces when they found out. Thanksgiving morning arrived cold and gray. The city streets were damp from last night's rain, but inside me burned a fire I hadn't felt in years. I woke early, showered, shaved, dressed in a black suit, clean, sharp, like armor. Today wasn't about blending in. Today was about making a statement. I drove downtown, the roads nearly empty, except for the odd car heading somewhere warm. As I pulled into the private lot behind the restaurant, my chest tightened. This wasn't just a petty stunt anymore. It was war. The staff, now my staff, greeted me with polite smiles. Only a few of them knew the truth. I'd instructed the manager not to tell anyone until after the reveal. Rumors swirled, but nothing concrete. All they knew was that the restaurant had a new owner who wanted things to run exactly as planned. Until a certain moment. I walked through the dining room, polished with floors gleaming under the chandeliers. Tables were set with crystal glasses and heavy silverware. Every plate gleamed under candlelight. The smell of roasted turkey and herbs drifted from the kitchen, rich and intoxicating. This was it, the stage where my family's betrayal would meet my revenge. By noon, the first families arrived, strangers in suits and dresses, laughing, holding coats, hugging each other tightly. I nodded at them, invisible, just another guest walking through. They had no idea the man in black owned the roof over their heads. At 1 o'clock, my family came. I spotted them instantly. My mother in her fur coat, my sister holding her husband's arm, my aunt dragging her kids behind her like ornaments, my cousins, uncles, all of them, a whole crowd of familiar faces that had once been my world. They entered in a rush of perfume and chatter, laughing like everything was perfect, like nothing was missing, like I wasn't missing. I stayed back, hidden behind partition, watching. My stomach churned, part fury, part heartbreak. My own mother's face lit up as she greeted relatives, her smile wide, genuine. And it hit me. She hadn't smiled like that for me in years. They were led to a long table near the center of the dining room. The best table. I had made sure of it. White cloth, gold-trimmed plates, a centerpiece of autumn flowers that reached nearly a foot high. The chatter rose, glasses clinked, and laughter filled the air. The very sound that once meant home now felt like knives carving me open. I slipped into the back office where the manager waited. He looked nervous, tapping a pen on the desk. "Sir, are you sure about this?" "They're your family." I leaned forward, my voice low, steady. "They stopped being family the second they erased me. Today, they learn what that costs." He swallowed hard and nodded. At 2 o'clock sharp, the servers rolled out the first dishes. Platters of roasted turkey, trays of steaming potatoes, bowls of cranberry sauce glistening red like jewels. The room filled with the smell of cinnamon, butter, and roasted meat. My family dove in laughing, pouring wine, toasting to a perfect Thanksgiving. And for a moment, I just stood there, watching, my fists clenched so tight my knuckles turned white. I wanted to storm out, scream at them, demand why they had done this to me. But no, that would be too easy. Too small. I hadn't bought an entire restaurant just to yell at selfish people who would never listen. No, they needed to feel it. I signaled the manager. He nodded to the head server, who walked straight toward the center table. Their table. "Ladies and gentlemen," the server announced, his voice loud enough to cut through the chatter. "Before we continue, we'd like to make a quick announcement." My family turned confused. My sister frowned. My mother tilted her head. The server smiled politely, gesturing toward the back. "Tonight's feast is extra special, because this year, our restaurant has a brand new owner. Someone who wanted to host every single guest here with care. Please welcome." That was my cue. I stepped out, my shoes clicking against the wood, the black suit catching the chandelier's glow. The entire room turned toward me, but I only looked at them. My family, the shock on their faces was delicious. My aunt gasped, My cousin froze mid-bite. My sister's wine glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the tablecloth. My mother's smile collapsed into a mask of horror. I stood tall, lips curved into the faintest smile. "Happy Thanksgiving," I said, my voice carrying across the room. "I see you all managed to find your way here, without inviting me." The silence was suffocating. 100 eyes flicked from me to them, whispers beginning to ripple through the crowd. My uncle cleared his throat, tried to recover. What are you doing here? What am I doing here? I laughed, cold and sharp. I own the place. Every chair, every plate, every bite of food you're chewing right now. It's mine. You thought you could erase me from Thanksgiving? Well, congratulations. You're sitting in my house. The whispers grew louder. Other diners turned, watching the drama unfold like theater. My sister's face twisted. "You're joking. This is a stunt." I pulled the folded deed from my jacket pocket and dropped it on the table in front of her, right into the cranberry sauce. Red smeared across the paper, but the bold black signature still showed clear. "Not a stunt," I said softly. "A reality." My mother's hands trembled as she reached for the paper, her lips moving without sound. Finally, she whispered, Why would you do this?" I leaned down, close enough for her to see the fury in my eyes. "Because you left me out. You left your own son to sit alone on Thanksgiving while you dined like royalty. You thought I wasn't worth a seat at the table. So I took the whole table away." The silence stretched like a blade held over their throats. My mother clutched the deed, her hands trembling so badly the cranberry-stained paper rattled. My cousins shifted uncomfortably, their eyes darting between me and their plates, like they weren't sure whether to keep eating or run. Finally, my aunt broke it. "This is insane. You can't just buy a whole restaurant out of spite." I turned to her slowly, smiling with a calmness that made her flinch. "Spite? No. Spite would have been showing up here drunk, throwing food, making a scene. This is precision. You wanted a Thanksgiving without me, so I made sure you'll never forget me." My sister scoffed, shaking her head. "You're pathetic. You think this makes you powerful? It just proves why we didn't invite you. You're unstable, selfish." Her words should have cut deep, but instead, I laughed. A low, humorless laugh that silenced the whispers in the room. "Selfish? You all sat here, feasting, while your own brother, your own son, sat alone, and you call me selfish." The servers hovered at the edges, frozen. Other families at nearby tables stared openly now, forks paused midair. The drama was no longer private. It was a public execution of every lie my family had told themselves. I straightened, addressing them all at once. "Do you know what it feels like to spend your life serving people who never serve you back? To carve turkeys, wash dishes, clean up messes, and then be told you're not good enough to sit at the table anymore?" My cousin Jason, the one who had accidentally spilled the secret, looked down, cheeks red. Guilt radiated off him like heat. I locked eyes with him. Jason knew. He slipped, and when I asked questions, "What did you all do?" "You closed ranks. You erased me." He opened his mouth, then closed it again, shoulders sagging. He couldn't even deny it. My mother finally found her voice. "You don't understand. It wasn't meant to hurt you. Things have been tense. We thought it would be easier without the arguments this year." I leaned closer, my voice dropping to a razor whisper. "Easier for who? For you? For them? You never thought about me. Not once." Her eyes glistened, tears threatened to fall, but I didn't let it soften me. Not this time. I clapped my hands once, sharp. The sound made the servers jump. "Everyone, listen up." I called out, raising my voice to the entire dining room. "These fine people here, my family, booked this restaurant for their Thanksgiving. They cut me out, erased me, treated me like I didn't exist. But here's the truth." I spread my arms wide, a cruel smile spreading. "This restaurant is mine, which means tonight their feast ends on my terms." Gasps rippled through the room. My aunt stood, face red, sputtering. "You wouldn't dare." "Oh, I dare." I cut her off. I nodded at the manager. With a subtle signal, The music died. The servers stopped serving. Plates were whisked away. Wine bottles corked mid-pour. My family's table sat suddenly bare, the centerpiece flowers standing mockingly tall over empty dishes. "What are you doing?" my uncle barked, rising from his seat. "Teaching a lesson," I said smoothly. Thanksgiving isn't about greed. It isn't about gorging yourselves while pretending someone doesn't exist. It's about family, about bonds. And you broke that bond. So tonight, you don't get to feast. Not at my table. The shock on their faces was almost better than the food. My cousins murmured, shifting uncomfortably. My aunt sat down hard, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. My sister looked ready to throw her wine glass at me. But my mother, she looked broken, her shoulders slumped, her eyes shiny with unshed tears. She whispered, almost to herself, "We just wanted peace." I stepped closer, towering over her. You don't get peace by cutting out the people you don't want to deal with. You get peace by facing your flaws, by admitting when you're wrong. But you couldn't do that. Instead, you pretended I didn't exist. She flinched as though each word were a slap. The dining room was dead silent now, every stranger watching like it was theater. And maybe it was a performance of betrayal, revenge, and truth. I turned to the crowd. You all came here to eat with your families, to celebrate being together. But imagine, just imagine, if one of you was deliberately left out, not forgotten, erased. That's what they did to me. The crowd shifted, whispers passing like waves. Some looked at my family with disgust. Others nodded slowly, sympathetic. I faced my family again, my voice low but cutting. This Thanksgiving, you don't get your perfect dinner. You don't get to laugh and toast and pretend you're saints. You get nothing. My sister shot to her feet, fists clenched. "You're insane. You can't do this." I smirked, leaning back. "Oh, but I can. This is my restaurant. And tonight, you'll sit here, hungry, watching every other family eat while you choke on the emptiness you gave me." Her face turned crimson. She opened her mouth to scream, but my mother's hand shot out, clutching her wrist. "Stop," my mother whispered. Her voice cracked, small and broken. "Please, just stop." For the first time, there was no defiance in her tone, no command, just pleading. I studied her face, my chest tight. The woman who raised me, who once kissed scraped knees and told bedtime stories, now sat trembling, begging for mercy. And part of me wanted to give it, to end the charade, sit down and eat with them like nothing had happened. But then I remembered that empty night, the silence, the words, "Don't worry about it." And the fire in me hardened again. "No," I said, cold as ice. "You wanted a Thanksgiving without me. So that's exactly what you'll have." I turned on my heel and walked away, leaving them stunned, staring at bare plates while laughter and the clink of glasses rang out from every other table around them. I left them sitting at that long, barren table, their fancy clothes and fake smiles useless now. Every other table buzzed with joy and warmth. Fathers carving turkeys, kids sneaking bites of pie, couples clinking glasses. The contrast was brutal, and I intended it that way. I lingered near the bar, a glass of water in hand, watching them out of the corner of my eye. They shifted, whispered, fidgeted. My aunt hissed something at my uncle. My sister gestured angrily toward me, her voice too sharp to be fully drowned out by the crowd. My mother just sat there, motionless, staring at the empty table like it might fill itself if she wished hard enough. It was perfect. After 20 long, tense minutes, my cousin Jason finally snapped. He stood, his chair scraping against the floor. "This is ridiculous," he muttered, shoving his hands in his pockets. "I'm going somewhere else. I'm not starving because of some petty drama." The others looked at him, startled, but none followed. They were trapped between pride and hunger. If they left, they'd admit defeat. If they stayed, they were under my thumb. I smiled into my glass. Eventually, my sister couldn't take it. She stormed over to me, heels clicking against the wood like gunshots. She stopped inches from me, her perfume sharp, her eyes blazing. "You think this makes you strong?" she hissed. "All you've done is prove us right. You're toxic. You've always been toxic." I tilted my head, studying her, and yet here you are, standing in my restaurant, begging for food like a stray dog. Tell me again, who's really powerless? Her face twisted, fury shaking her voice. You're sick, completely sick. I leaned closer, lowering my voice so only she could hear. Maybe, but I'm sick because of you. Because of all of you. You think you can carve me out of your lives and go on smiling, pretending everything's perfect. But I'm done being invisible. She recoiled as though I'd struck her. I straightened, my voice rising just enough to carry back to the table. Go ahead. Leave. There are plenty of restaurants in this city. But every door you knock on tonight, you'll remember who locked you out of this one. Her hands curled into fists, but she said nothing more. She spun on her heel and stalked back to the table. The tension dragged on like a storm cloud pressing against the windows. Servers passed with steaming platters for other tables, and my family flinched at the smell of roasted garlic, sweet potatoes glazed with brown sugar, pies dusted with cinnamon. Their stomachs growled audibly now, but no one dared ask for a crumb. Finally, my mother rose. Her fur coat slipped slightly from her shoulders as she walked slowly toward me. Like the weight of her years pressed heavier with each step. She stopped in front of me, her hands trembling. Please, she whispered. Her voice cracked, raw. You've made your point. I know we were wrong. I know we hurt you. But this isn't you. Her words almost broke me. Almost. I could see the sincerity in her eyes, the flicker of the woman who used to hug me tight and say I was her world. For a moment, my chest ached with the urge to forgive, to sit down and share a plate, to reclaim what was stolen. But then I remembered the silence of that night, the way every call went unanswered, the way she smiled today at everyone else but me. I hardened again. You don't get to decide who I am anymore, I said coldly. You had your chance to keep me as family. You threw it away. Now I'm the man who owns the ground under your feet. And tonight that means you starve. Tears welled in her eyes. She raised a hand, like she wanted to touch my face, but I stepped back. The rejection hit her like a blow. Her arm dropped, limp at her side. She turned, shoulders shaking, and walked back to the table. My aunt muttered something to comfort her, but it rang hollow. The rest of the meal, or lack of it, dragged on like a punishment. Every laugh from the other tables was a slap in their faces. Every bite of food they didn't have was a reminder of what they'd done to me. By the end, they sat in silence, beaten down, unable to meet my eyes. When the last families were leaving, when coats were buttoned and goodbyes said, my family finally rose. They shuffled out slowly, dignity shredded, pride in tatters. My sister didn't look at me. My aunt didn't either. My uncle muttered curses under his breath. But even he kept his head down. Only my mother paused at the door. She turned, her eyes red, her voice hoarse. You've won, she said softly. But in winning, you've lost us forever. I didn't answer, didn't move, just stood there, watching as the door swung shut behind her. The restaurant fell quiet, the echoes of laughter gone, the scent of roasted turkey still heavy in the air. I was alone again, but this time it wasn't because I'd been erased. This time it was because I'd chosen it. And maybe that was the real revenge. The restaurant was silent now, empty tables glowing under dying candles. I sat alone at the head of the long table where my family had suffered in silence, their abandoned glasses still wet with fingerprints. For the first time all night, I poured myself a drink. The burn of whiskey slid down my throat, sharp, cleansing. And in that moment, a strange clarity washed over me. I had won. I had stripped them bare, shown them what it felt like to be cast aside. But victory tasted bitter. The food was mine. The walls were mine. The power was mine, yet the bond, the love I once craved, was gone. They had thrown me away for the sake of comfort. I had crushed them for the sake of pride. And in the ashes, there was no family left at all. I raised my glass to the empty room, whispering to no one, Happy Thanksgiving. The clink echoed off the walls like a funeral bell. Because in the end, greed had devoured us all. First theirs, then mine. And that bond, the one thing that could never be bought back, was gone forever. If this story hit you, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Your support keeps these stories alive.